If you find one lobster, there are going to be multiple in the area. I find a hole over top of them, and my thought process is that if I reach in and catch one, we're in the clear, but if I don't, they're going to be pushed out into the open and will be a lot easier to catch. And you see, I follow my game plan. I reach in there and look, and dude, there was a hoss of a lobster. I'm like, I need to get this. I need to grab him by the knuckles of his antenna, but he was too fast. And something really important whenever you're diving, whether it's alone or with someone, is shallow water blackout. This happens when essentially you don't realize that you're running out of breath, and before you know it, your vision starts to blur and you pass out in the middle of the water. Now, this is especially dangerous for me because I don't have a dive buddy with me. I am completely alone. Once I re-upped on oxygen, I went back down and I noticed that the lobsters weren't in their original place, but rather in these little crevices. And this is actually good for me because lobsters really only are able to shoot directly backwards. So when they have this rock behind them, I know that they're not really able to escape too easily, and I just reach in, and this one was just cake. I got him very easily. Now, the main thing on my mind, obviously you guys notice I don't have any lobster equipment on me, and I can't even measure this thing. And on top of that, I've only ever caught 2 or 3 lobsters in my entire life. So I told myself, no, I know there are bigger lobsters somewhere in this reef. I just need to find them. On top of that, I was diving from shore, so I would have to swim all the way back, and I didn't want to do that unless I got 2 nice sized lobsters. And you guys see this guy was trying to defend himself with his spikes, but he was just so screwed. He was in a corner and I got him, and before I knew it, he was mine. He was freaking mine. Now, obviously, it's one thing to grab a lobster with both hands, but to only have one hand and a live lobster in the other is a whole different task. So I'm going under and I'm just trying to snatch anyone I can, and I grab this one lobster right by his knuckle and I drag him out, feeling like I'm the freaking Undertaker. I start to ascend to the top, and honestly, I'm feeling like the man right now. I have 2 nice sized lobsters in my hand, and this guy decides he's not freaking done, but not only that he's going back to his home. And I was pissed. Honestly, I could not believe that I just let that happen. And maybe I'm the only person that this happens to. Let me know in the comments, but I get so competitive with animals, and right now I feel like that lobster is better than me. And oh my goodness, I hate losing more than I like winning. So I'm looking at this lobster, I'm like, is he of size? Is he not? I'm considering going in, and then I'm like, no, I'm not gonna settle. I'm getting a second lobster. I'm glad I did too, because right below me were 2 huge ones, and you can't see it, but behind this hole is a pretty much open area, and I need to push them out over to there, and this guy falls for it. He shoots out into the open, and I pretty much signed his death wish, and I did a death grip on him, but then this other guy got away. Luckily, there wasn't a very deep hole for him to go into, so I was able to grab him, and then we ascend to the top, and the sun is just hitting the lobsters like perfectly right here. It was so pretty, and I felt so accomplished and confident that these guys were actually legal. Confidence isn't enough though, so I found 2 lobster fishermen right on shore that actually had the tools to make sure that they were illegal. Once I found out that I was good, I put them on the beach towel and got right back into the warm bath water. Something to take note of is that this swim I'm doing is over 100 yards, so it's not like I just swam in 2 feet, you know. It was actually pretty exhausting, and I left my pole spear out here, and I was super lucky to be able to find it. I totally forgot where I left it. I go to the bottom, start doing some recon again, and I notice right in front of me is a school of 3 black drum, and one of them is way bigger than the other one. Honestly, they were all pretty solid size, but one of them was especially bigger, and I was like, okay, I need to go back to the top, take a deep breath, and these are the guys I'm gonna hunt. Now, the reason I'm so excited about these fish is because they mainly eat barnacles and other crustaceans, and because of that, their meat is extremely sweet compared to other fish that are more mild that eat carnivorous meat. Whenever you're lining up a shot on a fish, you want to wait until it's completely sideways towards you so that you have more area to hit. And you see this guy, I absolutely stoned. I got him right, well, okay, maybe I didn't stone him. He's still clearly swimming. Not to worry though, that's why we brain the fish. We do that by sticking a sharp object into its head, and then afterwards we want to cut its throat so that the meat doesn't get contaminated with the blood. So this is pretty much just bleeding the fish. After that, you start to gut, and I like to scale the fish in the middle of the water. Sometimes this does bring in sharks. If you are afraid of sharks, maybe don't gut and bleed your fish in the middle of the water with you. Get it out as soon as possible. I'm putting this black drum on a metal stringer, and this is going to act as a flasher and also just a ever-going scent that's going to tell other predatory fish in the area where I am. Once he was secured, I went back down to the bottom because I wanted to make it look like I was small. And something I want to bring attention to here is I want you to notice how rapidly I'm kind of moving my head and swimming around, and this is me getting really competitive, but this is not good because it means my heart rate is increasing and I'm using oxygen a lot faster, which means I could black out a lot faster. So I stopped myself. I'm like, yo, I need to be safe. I need to go to the top for at least 2 minutes, and that's what I did. I just chilled at the top because I needed a rest. And if you guys want to make this content a little bit interactive, hold your breath while I'm underwater with me, because then you realize, whoa, this is actually very difficult. Finally, I find a hole that I think is going to be easy mode, right? I see these whiskers sticking out, and I'm like, you know what? I'm so over trying to go against all these strategies and angles, and I just reach in, and sometimes you just need cojones. You know what I mean? You just need to reach in and grab the freaking lobster. As I'm swimming in, maybe 10 yards from shore, I see a giant school of ladyfish. ladyfish. And take note of the size of these ladyfish, because they are usually not anywhere near this big. I'm like scrambling to get my equipment, and on top of that, this is only like 3 feet of water. The biggest obstacle is definitely the lobster in my right hand. My thought process here is let me get the lobster in between my legs while I load my spear, and I don't know if it slipped my mind or what, but these are Florida spiny lobsters. That I serrated my entire leg when I did that. This school of ladyfish is doing their only defense mechanism called schooling, and the reason this is so effective is because it's so hard to single one of them out. They're going so fast, and it's extremely disorienting for any predator, including myself, to look at them. It's like you can't even pick one. Now, as this next school is swimming by, I noticed there's a bluefish. It's way bigger than all the other ones, and that was the guy I got. This is what stoning a fish means. You notice how it just completely stopped moving? That means I either disconnected its spine or went right through its brain. Either way, it's not going anywhere. Now, the problem with catching ladyfish is that they don't have a lot of area to hit, especially when you have a 3-prong that's so spread out like the one that I have. It's also crazy how many ladyfish are actually here. I have no idea. I couldn't even imagine how large the school is. It's actively circling me the entire time, so even though it looks like they're all traveling in a straight line, this is actually entirely around me. This shot that I took, I actually hit the ladyfish, but it didn't pierce the skin, and that's why it's so important to have a spear that you're comfortable with. The heavier the spear, the easier it is going to penetrate the fish. Right here, you can see my eyes following specific fish, trying to single one out from the school, and then this one just flew a little too close to me, and that's the one I targeted. I angle my spear up so that the fish isn't able to fly off. Even though the 3-prong has barbs, making it so that the fish can't just get right off, it's still important to put that forward pressure so that that fish is pushed into the spear deeper. At this point, all of my equipment started beeping. The GoPro was telling me it was dying, so was the drone, so this was going to be my last couple of dives. I get down there and I see one of the black drums that I let go from earlier, and something I really try to take advantage of is when the fish is not in line of sight of me. So for instance, I won't really swim fast until a fish is behind a rock and can't see that I'm swimming fast. It just so happened that this guy totally caught on to me and dipped. One of my favorite fish to eat on this reef are mangrove snappers, and they're usually pretty abundant, so when I find this guy, I was like, okay, let me take my time, sneak up behind him. Obviously, it's within range of my spear, but if it turns sideways, I'm gonna have a lot more area to hit. What we could learn from losing this fish is that I didn't apply forward pressure after I actually hit the fish. So I bet you if I were to push forward and really make sure that the water pressure on the other side of the fish made it go into the barbs more, it would have probably stayed on, but I didn't follow up. When I looked down, I saw a shark, but luckily it was a little puppy dog of a nurse shark, and what he's doing is scanning the rocks trying to look for lobsters because they mainly eat crustaceans. So seeing how many lobsters are on this set of rocks, I just knew he was having a heyday. After coming up where I was from the shark, I looked in the distance and I saw this eel, and usually these guys have terrible eyesight. Like, you could be right in front of them trying to feed something and they won't even see it. So I started to go up to him and I thought I would be able to capture him on camera, but I don't even know how he saw me because I swear these guys are practically blind. Right here I see a sea urchin, and usually I like to crack these guys open and feed the fish around me, but as I'm playing with it, I see a perfect sushi grade fish, which is a jack, flying towards me. The reason it's good sushi grade is because it has nice consistent meat, so I quickly load my spear, and the way that I got this fish was wild because I saw that I only pierced its lip, and that's similar to how you do it when you're like fishing with a line and a hook. So the fact that I didn't penetrate the meat means it's even gonna be better sushi grade. And I know what you're thinking, Nick, that's not a very big fish, and I know it's not the biggest, but my aunt told me she wanted sushi, and this is the perfect amount for one person. Now that I caught food for my family, it's time to head to our next location, and to spearfish here, we're gonna need a special weapon. When you're hunting with a bow and arrow, you need to make sure you have incredibly good aim because there's nothing connected to your bow. Started with a hogfish in front of me, and when I took the shot, instantly a pretty large reef shark came into the area. Every time the hogfish shakes, it's giving out little vibrations to the shark, saying that there's an easy meal in the area. When this happens, it'll fire up the shark, and it's important that you keep eyes on it at all times. If at any point you start to swim away from the shark, it's gonna identify you as a prey item and start to pursue you as the meal. We got the hogfish off the end of my spear and started swimming in a different direction while keeping a close eye on it and our spears pointed towards the shark. We lost it, and I came across a mangrove snapper above some live coral. I hit him, but it wasn't enough to penetrate through the other side of his body, so at this point I need to hunt him down. Luckily, my first shot was a good one, and I found him hiding underneath this little bit of coral at the bottom of the ocean. He wasn't really swimming anywhere, he was bleeding out, so it was a pretty easy shot, and at this point I'm scanning the area, making sure no sharks are coming in to steal my food. Mangrove snappers here have to be 10 inches, and I always use my hands as a nice reference point to understand how big the fish is. As I was measuring it, the shark came right into point of view one more time. As I swam back to the boat, I held my arrow above the water so that it wouldn't be letting out a bunch of fish scent and attracting other predators nearby. It was tough though because there were sharks in between me and the boat, and the only way out is through. So eventually I put it back in and I got back to hunting. A barjack was in the middle of the water column. Usually you'll find these guys in the open ocean. I took a nice shot, and because this is a smaller fish, it wasn't able to swim with my arrow for very long, so it kind of just sunk to the bottom of the ocean like an airplane would would if it were going down. This is always the most dangerous situation. If a shark is gonna come and surprise you out of nowhere, now is the time. So as I descend, I'm looking all over the place, making sure that nothing's coming up on me. We wound up making chum out of it, which is a debatable whether it's actually smart with so many sharks in the area, but it was the decision that we made. The chum brought in a couple of barracuda, and you guys know I'm always enjoying hunting those, but below the barracuda was a mangrove snapper. These are the most abundant fish on the reef. He's under this cave, and when I take the shot, he's freaking out, sending signals to the sharks all around us, so we need to make sure we secure it fast. This mangrove was about a foot long, and the chum was definitely working from the jack earlier because it was bringing in a whole lot of them. It's important whenever you're lining up on a fish to really take your time, and sometimes you even need to lead your arrow. Hit another mangrove snapper, but it got off the end of my spear tip, and it must have been bleeding a whole lot because then the sharks started to come in real close.
There's a reef shark in the area. 3-4 feet, manageable and not fired up.
As I was looking for the mangrove that I lost, I came across a